Welcome to another video from Accounting How. In this video, we will be looking at the General Journal, also known as the journal proper or just the journal, and how errors or the correction of errors is recorded in the General Journal. If you haven't already done so, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like and share the videos. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Accounting How. Here is the question for this video. If you're confident, familiar with the topic, you might decide to pause the video now, have a go at the question, and then play the rest of the video and check it against your own workings and answer. Or if it's a topic that you're not too familiar with or confident in, then continue to play and work through the question with me. We have Layla owns a small shop, and at the end of her financial year, the trial balance did not agree. She later found the following errors. And my advice here, I've said in other videos, is just to quickly skim read these. So the purchases journal is undercast, it's too low. A payment for insurance has been posted to the premises account. Rent payment, also the figure's different, 729 has gone in rent as 792. A credit sale to Digby has been completely omitted. Returns outwards have been posted to the debit of the returns outwards account. And Layla withdrew some money by cheque, but this has been recorded in the cash book but not elsewhere. And the question is asking us to show the entries in the General Journal to correct the errors found. Narratives are required. And you'll see I've drawn out my General Journal, and I've got a space over on the right that I'm going to use for my workings. I'm going to be showing one error at a time. But in reality, on your piece of paper, you can just have one long General Journal because it's all related to the same business. You can just record them all in the one. I'm just doing one at a time so that it can fit on the screen. When it comes to recording errors in the journal, in the General Journal, you're probably familiar with CROPOC errors. Sometimes that acronym is muddled up a bit. You might call them COPCOR errors. And then there are other errors, the ones that aren't the CROPOC errors, the non-CROPOC errors. The good news about recording errors, correction of errors in a journal, is it doesn't matter whether they're CROPOC or not. Every single error, no matter what type of error, if you correct an error, it has to be recorded in the journal. So Layla's got 6 errors, so we know then we've got to show what's had to be done to correct these errors, all 6 of them in the journal. Error number 1, let's get going then, is the purchases journal had been undercast by £44. Purchases journal is one of the books of original entry, one of the books of prime entry, and when somebody has totaled up that journal, they've ended up with a figure that is £44 lower than it should be. Casting is an old-fashioned word for adding, like a total, so undercast, it's too low. When they've added it up, it hasn't been put to the right figure. So my workings, purchases journal, if the purchases journal is wrong, well, that figure will have then gone into the purchases account. So my working is just simply a T account for purchases. Remember, these workings are literally just that, a working. They don't need to be particularly detailed. I've written the word purchases, but in reality, you could just put the letter P. It's just enough for you to, and anybody looking at your work, to be able to see your thought process. Purchases, it's important to think about the type of account. So again, you might be familiar with things like dead click. Purchases is an expense. So in order to increase an expense account, we need to record things on the debit. So the figure that's been put in, we don't actually know, but what we do know is it's too low by £44. So the way I look at it is I say, well, the figure is X, we don't know what, but at the minute, that figure is too low. So you'll see there I've got, less 44, it's not enough. So in other words, I need to put £44 more into the purchases account. So in order to increase the amount in purchases, in order to increase this expense account, I need to record it on the debit because that's the dead click rule. So to increase an expense account on the debit, there it is, the £44. Now this is the only account involved in the error. So this must be a non-CROPOC error, and this will have caused or contributed towards Layla having a suspense account. So that £44 will need to be double entered to a suspense account. And now from my working, I've got enough detail to know what to do. So what have we had to do to put this right? Well, we've debited the purchases account. So in my general journal, the first thing I'm going to record, purchases account was debited with 44. And then we've said we would then credit the suspense account. So I add that to my journal. In the journal, sometimes you need to have a date column. Here I haven't put the date column, but obviously that's easy to do if you were given the dates. We generally try to show the debit entry first, followed by the credit entry. And the credit entry is often just indented slightly, like I've done. And then the question asks us to show narratives. So this is the sentence underneath, basically identifying the type of error and just explaining why that double entry was done. And this then, the clue is the word casting. And casting, as I say, is an old-fashioned word for adding. So why was this double entry needed? Well, it was the correction of an addition error, also known as a casting error. Let's move on to error 2. A payment for £195 for insurance had been mistakenly posted to the premises account. There were 2 accounts involved. In my workings, I've got a quick sketch of the 2 accounts, premises and insurance, and I'm going to start by showing what's been done. So this 195 has been posted to premises. Premises is an asset account, so it doesn't say anything about the sides, so we assume that they've treated it as an asset. So on the debit of premises is that £195. I've put the word bank. Who knows how they paid? Maybe it was a check, maybe it was cash. It doesn't really matter. But 195 on the debit. But that's supposed to be in the insurance account. Insurance is an expense account, and to increase an expense account, we know that is also recorded on the debit. So in this case, Layla has got the side right. She has debited an account, but she's debited the wrong type of account. She's recorded this in premises, which is an asset, when it should be in insurance, which is an expense account. So this is quite a straightforward one to sort. All I need to do is transfer it, move this 195, if you like, from premises into insurance. So I need to decrease the amount in premises, and then there it is on the credit, and then I'm going to send that to the debit of insurance, and it's now come from the premises account. And now I've got what I needed. I've got the 195 on the debit of insurance, and I've effectively cancelled out the 195 she put on the debit of premises by putting an entry on the credit. And then in the journal, remember, we're looking for the account that was debited first, is the first entry. So look at the double entry we've done to correct it. And in order to correct it, the account I've had to debit was the insurance account. So in my journal, I'm going to start by recording the insurance account was debited with 195. And then in order to correct this error, I credited the premises account. And that's the second item in my journal. And then the type of error, we've got the wrong type of account. We said she's muddled up an asset account with an expense account. And if you know your errors, you will know that that is an error of principle. So the narrative at the end being the correction of an error of principle. Let's move on to error 3. A rent payment for £729 had been posted to the rent account as £792. My working, there's only one account involved, and that's the rent account. Start by showing what she's done. Rent is an expense, so expense accounts, we already know, are recorded on the debit, and she's put 792. Again, I've put the word bank. I'm going that it doesn't really matter for this type of working for this question. Maybe she paid cash, maybe she paid check. It doesn't matter. 792 on the debit. But that's supposed to be 729. She's put too much on the debit. So I need to reduce the amount. So in order to reduce the amount of this expense in this expense account, I need to put the difference over on the credit side. So the difference is 63. There's only one account involved in the error, so this is going to be a non-CROPOC error. This, like the first error, has contributed towards Layla, or would have contributed towards Layla having a suspense account. And I need to send that 63 to the suspense account. So I'm crediting the rent account which means I must be debiting the suspense account. So in my journal, suspense account is going to come first because that's got to be debited with 63. Then we've credited the rent with 63. And this error, you can hopefully recognise that she's got the right digits but in the wrong order. She's put 729 when it's supposed to be 792. And that is known as a transposition error. Moving on to error 4, a credit sale to Digby for 640 had been completely omitted from the accounts. This is quite a straightforward one because the whole thing has been left out. So the two accounts involved are going to be the sales account and the account of Digby, who would have become a trade receivable because we've sold goods on credit. And sales is an income account. So on the credit, we need to record this sale, and Digby, because he's a trade receivable, trade receivables are an asset. So on the debit of Digby, we have the 640. So to correct the error, we've had to debit the Digby account. So that's the first entry going in my journal. And then we've credited the sales account. There's the second entry. And this is a Cropok error, and the whole thing was left out. So it's the correction of an error of omission. 2 to go. Error number 5, returns outwards of £50 had been posted to the debit of the returns outwards account. Well, there's a bit of a clue here in the question because the account is right. It says that returns outwards has gone in the returns outwards account. So we've got to think, well, what is wrong? It doesn't say the figure's wrong, so probably then it's the side that's wrong. And it says they've put it on the debit. Well, returns outwards, that means you purchase something and then sent it back. Well, purchases is an expense. Purchases is recorded on the debit. So if you return something, if you return a purchase, that has to be recorded on the credit. Returns outwards is sometimes referred to as purchases returns. And so effectively what Layla has done is put this on the wrong side. She's put the 50 on the debit when it's supposed to be on the credit. So in order to put this right, I need to put an amount on the credit. I've just got to be a little bit careful because if I put 50 on the credit, that's going to cancel out the 50 on the debit. And then effectively the account has no balance at all. So what I'm going to need to do is put £100 onto the credit, and that will leave me then with £50 on the credit. If ever you want to double check, you can quickly balance it off. If I balance this off now, I can see that I end up with a brought down balance of £50 on the credit, and that's what I wanted. So just watch out. Sometimes, particularly with things like returns or discount accounts, sometimes it's necessary to double the amount. Effectively, if it's gone on the wrong side, you will need to double or maybe do a slightly different figure in order to correct the error. And so to sort this out, we've identified that I'm going to credit the returns outwards. So that means I'm going to debit the suspense account with the 100, credit returns outwards. And in this case, this is a posting error because the figure has been posted to the wrong side, in this case, of an account. And error number 6, Layla withdrew £400 by cheque from the business for personal use. This had been recorded in the cash book but not elsewhere. The clue then is the fact that the money was taken for her own personal use. Hopefully you recognise that we know that as to be a drawing in accounting. So the account involved in the error is the drawings account. And using an acronym such as DEDCLIC, we know that to increase a drawings account, we record it on the debit. So quite simply, she didn't put it in. She's put it in the bank column of her cash book, but not in the drawings account. So all I need to do then is debit her drawings account with this 400. There's only one account involved in this error. So this is a non-Cropok error. And to fix it then, I have debited the drawings account and I will then need to credit her suspense account. Error number 4 was an error of omission because she'd missed out the whole double entry, but this time she's just missed out half the double entry. And so we've just referred to this as an error of partial omission. Sometimes people refer to it as an incomplete double entry. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give us a like, share, subscribe, and follow us on Twitter at AccountingHow. If there's anything you'd like to see in future videos, please just let us know in the comments. Thank you very much.